this point, but I'm yelling at, I'm the petty officer to watch in my area, and I'm like, plot that fucking ship, get it on the map now. And so he puts it on there, and long story short, we played a cat and mouse game with that ship over the next 36 hours. And I had, I'd been up for over 40 by the time the mission was over with. But it was a cat and mouse game, because there's a smuggling route that goes right against the black line of Iran, and the black line is the recognized territorial waters of Iran, not of every other country on the planet, but what Iran believes that their territorial waters
right.
are.
Yeah.
And so anyone smuggling, all the pirate ships, whoever it may be, will always stay
they'll run the black line
just in international waters.
Yeah.
And then when a vessel comes over to them, they get scared, and then they jump into Iranian waters. And then if an Iranian Navy boat comes towards them, they go back into international waters.
Right.
So they just skirt, wiggle worm across that international line. And so since I was the one who saw it, I was the director. I directed this entire multinational search and rescue operation for these 60 women who had been kidnapped by Al Qaeda. We found out it was by Al Qaeda, but I was in charge of a few U.S. Navy vessels, aircraft. We had a submarine in the area. We had the Australians, the Brits, the French. So I was in charge of all of these different countries and all of these assets. And I eventually, God, I love the Australians.
Yeah.
Fucking love the Australians. A huge shout out to the Australians. The French, you can kiss my ass, but the Australians, you guys are amazing.
So what's funny is I have 2 listeners in France and I have 4 listeners in Australia. So your shout out to Australia will get heard, and your fuck you to France will also get heard. So well done. Well done.
So anyways, God, the French just had a lot higher restrictions on what they were willing to do.
Yeah.
In assisting the matter.
Right.
Which, everyone has their own parameters of safety. Theirs just seemed to be exponentially higher than anyone else's. So I was able to direct an Australian vessel to physically, I wanted to position them between the black line and this pirate vessel. And they not only did that.
It's really a high stakes game of chess.
Huge high stakes game of chess. And especially when you're that close to the black line.
Right.
It was stupid close. And the Australians were able to pull themselves in between the black line and the pirate vessel. And then they physically rammed the pirate vessel and pushed it farther and farther away into international waters, away from the black line.
Beautiful.
It was a huge hats off to those guys. And this was about 36 hours after I got the initial call, and they were able to board the vessel, and we gave aerial gun support to them as they were boarding the vessel. And sure as shit, 60 women who were on board. I mean, and the age range was huge. It was, I think the youngest was like 8 years old, and up to like 50 or something like that. And yeah, it was just crazy. And the guys who were on board, obviously gathered a bunch of intelligence from them and found out that it was like a second cousin to Bin Laden, and there was direct ties to Al Qaeda, and all the money that they were making was to fund terrorism. So
that's amazing, and 2, I've got a funny story. It's what I refer to as a lottery moment. It's like the lottery; you can't win if you don't play, right?
Yep.
So although my story is a little funny, it did not involve me orchestrating, multinational operations and billions of dollars of assets in international waters. But when I used to do humanitarian healthcare a lot in both Iraq and Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, when I got in country in mid 2008, when I started doing humanitarian sick call, all of my local national patients, you know, I took sick call as an opportunity to interrogate, because I had them on the table for as long as I wanted them. And we would get the council members, we get the Shura members and the elders. And so I'd keep them on the table and try to get them talking as much as I could. And I knew it was going to be a relationship development thing, building relationships over time. So after about the second week in country, I started asking every single Afghani patient, have you ever seen Osama bin Laden? Right. And you get a lot of confusion, and, you know, I'm working through my interpreter. And one of the funniest ones was the first time I asked my interpreter to ask a question. I'm like, you know, this guy had in Afghanistan, we developed this disease called the FEVAICS, because every elder Afghan male came to sick call because he had a fever and he had body aches, because they just wanted medicine, right? So, you know, so I'm asking this guy questions about the FEVAICS. You know, how long have you been having a fever? How long has your body been hurting? Does it hurt in your back? Does it hurt in your neck? Have you seen Osama bin Laden? And I just kind of worked it in, right? And my interpreter's like, what are you asking? And I'm like, just shut up and ask the fucking Dirk a question, dude. So, so this goes on, and I get, you know, obviously I'm doc, so I have already people in the camp know me, and people in the camp knew me from before, and they know kind of my reputation of being kind of cavalier or whatever. And so we were there, I don't know, 5 or 6 months. And I every single patient, you know, how's your back? How's your knees? Have you seen Osama bin Laden? And then it was about 6 months, and some guy, it was weird the way the local nationals, because calendars don't mean anything to them. You know, they guess their age by the number of, you know, if they were born in the harvest season, which is, you know, August or September time, their child was born 8 harvest seasons ago. Well, that kid's 8, right? 8, yeah. You know, so their construct of time is different, you know. So anyway, this guy, you know, Durka, how's your back? How's your knees? Have you seen Osama bin Laden? I had not seen him in 2 to 3 harvest seasons, and everybody got quiet. Like, that fucker knew who he was, and he had seen him 2 or 3 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was like stone cold quiet, you know, because my interpreter was the first one to go crickets on me, because I was like, what did he say? Because typically what I thought was funny were the ones that would laugh. Actually, I would ask the question and they would laugh. I'm like, why is it funny? If you don't know who he is, why is it funny? You know, and it was only maybe 1 in 10 at most, you know, maybe 1 in 12, 1 in 15. It wasn't common, but it was one of those commonly uncommon things. You know, it happened enough that's like, after about the 3rd or 4th time, I'm like, why are they laughing when I'm asking them if they know who Osama bin Laden is? So that was the first kind of thing. And I would always report up, hey, I saw this villager this morning, blah, blah, blah. You know, when I asked if my lottery question, I called it lottery question, if, you know, if they'd seen Osama bin Laden, they laughed. He thought it was funny that I was asking that question. I think that's peculiar. I don't think it's funny. I think it's peculiar.
But it's peculiar. Yep.
Because he knows who I'm asking about, and he thinks it's comical that I'm asking about him. Right. But then 6 months in, some guy's like, yeah, I hadn't seen him in 2 years. Fucking put the brakes on this one. And that dude didn't leave the clinic for a long time. Like, we fucking, we had a couple people come over and talk to him. So, but it's one of those lottery moments. And that's, again, kind of back to, you know, a lot of veterans, unless you're a veteran, you probably wouldn't get it. You know, people would probably think it was, you know, non-veterans would probably think it's stupid. In fact, a lot of veterans even thought it was stupid. They're like, I can't believe you're asking every patient. I'm like, it's a lottery, dude. You can't win. Yeah. Exactly. Why not? I'm asking them 100 other questions about their stinky, rotten feet. Why not ask them about Osama bin Laden? That's what we're here for. So I asked every single person about Osama bin Laden, and I found one that knew him, and I found about 20 that thought it was funny that I was asking about him.
Yep.
But it's the lottery. You can't win if you don't play. You know, you're monitoring your scope, your radar screen, and you see the boat, you single them out and ask them a question, and you get that one dumb guy, the FNG. Oh, we got 60 women on board. And no shit, they did. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, think of the impact of those lives. Yeah,
it was definitely incredible. We they had boarded, all the women were boarded up into the Australian vessel, and then we flew multiple, just kind of a multiple shuttle mission of our H-60s, our Blackhawks over there, picked up a few, brought it back, picked up a few, brought them back. And so on the carrier, there's 3 huge hangar bays, and we completely shut down the middle hangar bay, didn't allow any access for anyone else to enter the area except for security, medical personnel, and so forth. And we fed them, we clothed them. Actually, what was great about a lot of the women that we had on board, it's it's a carrier, so you got 5,000 plus of the best friends you never wanted.
Right.
But
It's a floating city.
Yeah, we had I think about 800 female, and a lot of them. We approached a few of the birthing areas and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. Are you willing to donate some clothing?" And they all. There wasn't one person. There was not one person that did not donate some sort of clothing.
Right.
And so they got fed, they got hydrated, they got clean clothes, fresh, quote unquote fresh air, even though you're out at sea.
Right.
But it was great. And then they flew in some sea stallions, which are holy crap. I didn't realize how big those helicopters were until they landed, and loaded them all up and flew them off. And from there, I don't know where they went. But
and so was that on NBC, CBS, Fox, or CNN? Who reported that?
Yeah, no one.
Exactly.
That shit never happens,
folks. These are the missions that our men and women in service are pulling off every day. And Glenn, I don't mean to call you out or embarrass you, but when you think about, we just had Memorial Weekend. We just had a weekend where everyone else other than veteran population thought it was the initial start of summer, when the veteran population was kind of sullen and sitting back, and we're all thinking about our brothers and sisters that never came home.
Yeah, nothing better than sharing the drink with yourself.
Right.
So
this is an amazing story of the unsung heroism of our military and the things that happen on the daily across the globe because of the United States military. That's a great. I'm super happy you chose that as a story to share. That's a tremendous story to share with us.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mean, it was a lottery moment, and I'm glad I was there to do what I was able to do. And in continuation of what you're saying, I mean, even just the physical presence of our military across the oceans, across the countries, brings ease to a lot of nations. And I've seen that directly, especially when we were on my first deployment. We were just floating around. We're just an aircraft carrier, just a ship floating around in the ocean outside of North Korea, and nothing was going on. They didn't do any rocket tests. They didn't do anything stupid at all. The Chinese didn't do anything. And it's just, just our presence, knowing our presence helps bring some ease to a lot of global regions. And then to be able to do a lot of the stuff that we were able to do to help men and women, not just of our own country, but of other countries as well. And actually, literally, just as back to that story with the 60 women, it wasn't 10, 15 minutes after they had secured that pirate vessel with all the women on board that I got a call of a Iranian fishing vessel with 18 fishermen on board, and their boat was burning